I'm out of the closet, team.
Yeah. So I'm glad that his exposure and his reach is growing because I've seen it since before he was a coach. He was a closet coach. I've known Aaron for a few years. He's been a coach of mine for a lot of mindset stuff. And that's probably one of the most powerful things and most impactful things that I've actually taken from Mr. Novello.
Mr.
Sorry. Senor Novello. Like I say, he was like the best kept secret. Now the secret's out. He made a commitment to actually start doing some more social media stuff. If I asked you guys if you guys knew who Aaron Novello was 2 years ago, no hand would have probably been raised.
Yeah.
Now he's got like 50-some thousand followers. He did like one little post and like my phone's been blowing up since. I'm super grateful to have met this guy. He has made a huge impact on me and I know that he's gonna make a huge impact on you guys. This man has been dominating and scaring people left and right over in Florida. I'm telling you, like he freaks people the F out.
Yeah.
When they find out that he's going to a listing presentation and they're going to compete against him, they cancel their appointment.
Yeah.
Aaron Novello.
Appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, team. When we're trying to get attention, right? That's kind of like a theme. When he asked, hey, how many of you guys have heard of this person? And the main mechanism for them hearing about me was what? For those who perhaps have interacted with me in the digital form, where did you go to do that? Media, right? Now, what I would suggest to you, see, you said a word there. You said social media. Those two things are actually different. So when I say the word social to you, what comes up? Conversation, right? When I say the word media to you, what comes up? If I was to ask you about a media company, what would be an example of a media company? Disney, right? They're in the business of what? Interesting. Okay, good. So what I became aware of, because I built my business, guys, in the residential resale side, pounding it out. 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, on the phone, prospecting. I heard a quote which really kind of shook me up. It said, if you are a shitty marketer, you have to become a rockstar salesperson. I was a terrible marketer. So I had to become a what? Rockstar salesperson. Over the last 2 or 3 years, I have shifted and now I'm becoming a rockstar marketer. Now, why is that important? Why is that valuable? Because our consumers, buyers and sellers, they speak a language, and we all speak the language of story. Okay? So, in any great story, and story, by the way, is the only tool that we have as humans that can captivate attention for hours at a time. How many of you guys have watched a movie for at least 2 hours in length? Yeah. It's the only thing that we have at our disposal as a tool that can captivate attention for that period of time. Now, in every story, there is a formula. So at the beginning of every movie, what happens? What happens at the beginning of every movie? Introduction to what? Ah, very interesting. Introduction to the main character. Because otherwise, what are we doing? Right? Okay. And what else happens during that introduction? You get introduced to what about the character? Oh my God. The main character has a problem. Whether that problem is they want the girl, they want the guy, they want the job, right? There's a problem. Can the main character solve their own problem, by the way? No, they can't. Because if they could, they would have done it already. So who shows up? No, not the hero, because okay, this is good. We got brains thinking here. This is good. Who shows up? Nope. Salima, say it louder. Say it loud. Stand up and say it. Yeah. The guide. Clap it up for Salima. Let's go. The guide. The guide shows up. Harry Potter is the hero in the story. Who's his guide? Dumbledore. Luke Skywalker is the hero in the story. Who's his guide? Obi-Wan. You see, you guys know this shit. You speak the language of story. And then what does the guide do? He gives them a plan. He or she gives them a plan. And when they give them a plan, does the hero take action? No, usually not. Because characters don't take action until an outside force calls them to action. Think about it in your life. How many of you guys know that there's something you should be doing right now and you're not doing it? You know what you're looking for? A guide to help you to solve your whatever that problem is. I want to lose weight. I want to make more money. I want to have a better relationship with my wife, correct? The guide calls them to action. Then the hero ends up getting what? What they want. And you know what they avoid? what they don't want. How do you think this applies to selling real estate? Who is our hero? Who's the main character in our story? This is so perfect. The fucking client. You guys answered like a group of real estate agents. It's fucking me. But isn't that interesting? And it reveals how we are not speaking the language of story. You doing a post of saying, look at my new listing. Who is that about? Fucking you. You're making yourself the hero. Are you helping the buyer solve any problems with that? No. Nope. Are you giving them a plan on how to buy that fucking house? Nope.
Your ego gets a boost.
Yeah, a little bit. Because like your sister and your mom put a heart on it. So do you see what I'm saying? So the mistake that brands, and we are a brand, make is that we make ourselves the hero, guys. The client is the hero of their own story. What does that make you? Let me ask you guys a question. Who's the weakest character in the story? No, who's the weakest character in like a movie or a story? The villain. Who's the second weakest? It's the main character, guys. It's the hero. Okay, let me ask you a question. Does Harry Potter know what he's doing? Nope. Does he know that he's magical? Nope. Does he know he's the most powerful wizard on the planet? Who's the strongest person in the whole in the whole movie? The guide. Obi-Wan. You know who we root for? The guide. That's who we root for. Does this make sense? So we need to be positioning ourselves as a good what? Everybody who raised their hands and said that they had interacted with me, what happens is, imagine if you could send yourself in the digital form to have conversations with people. And they can decide if they know, like, and trust you. And if you're a good guide to help them to solve their, oh my God. You see how powerful this is? So you mean to tell me little posts like me, like, hey, cutie. Or with your little sold sign? You're not positioning yourself as a guide. Does this make sense? Now, why do you think first, now that we understand it, now we can start to do something different. But what is the emotion that causes us to make ourselves the hero? Ego. What else? What's under that? Insecurity. That's what's under it. I need to demonstrate and prove to you how cool I am. Don't you know I've sold 1,000 homes in my career? Can you imagine if you went to the donut shop and they were like, hey, I don't know if you know, but I'm a big deal, bro. I make fucking donuts all day long. Would you be like, are you serious right now, dude? I just want a donut. Do we do that all the time? Yes. Why? Insecurity. I had this conversation with somebody recently. He's like, well, don't you need to tell people? Don't you need to show people that you're successful? I said, no. He said, why? I said, because if you just listen to me and you listen to the questions that I ask, you know that I'm competent. Are you familiar with the techniques that I use to sell homes? You mean to tell me you use the same photographers as everybody else? Is that your magic fucking secret? How could I position myself as a good guide? Listening. What else? Asking questions. Fascinating. So, gosh, your home is really lovely. It's in a great geographic area. I don't need to tell you that. When you originally put it on the market, was there any particular reason you were even considering selling it? I'm wondering if you did sell it, and I'm aware that is an if, what would be the benefit to you and your family? How would your life improve in some way? What would happen on the outside chance if it didn't sell? Would that be okay with you? I can't figure out what the hero's problem is if I'm talking about my fucking self all the time. The goal is to position yourself as a good guide. Can a guide help if they don't know what the problem is? And by asking these questions, I can determine if there is a problem that I'm specifically suited to help them with. Let me ask you guys a question. When you're making purchasing decisions in 2024, how do you make a purchase decision? Do you call your friend? You're like, yo, what did you use that was really good? Do you do that? Oh, this is interesting. Okay, all of this is popping out. I do my homework. Somebody said go online. I do research. And what are you visually looking for? Social proof. Reviews. Interesting. How many people have a Google My Business page? Not enough. Well, let me get this straight. How you make decisions on who gets the $150 restaurant check is you go online, look at reviews, and then you go, but you're not doing that for yourself. Are you operating in the world that we live in today? No, you are not. Anybody besides me remember actually going to like Macys or like department stores? What's your feeling now? Be like, fuck that, bro. Right? I gotta go there and like I gotta smell that crappy place and I gotta be around these people and with that silly music. If I could get it on what? Online. That is my preference. Right? So I'm curious, would you look at perhaps like a video? Yes. Would you want to hear the story? Yes? And you would make a decision if this product or service is a good what? Which is another way of saying a good guide to help me to solve my you guys are getting it. So let me ask you a question. How many of you guys are curating what people are seeing when they look you up? Oh, everybody here is independently wealthy? So let me ask you a question. Are you operating in the world that we live in today? Nope. I'm operating in a world that existed 50 years ago. Anybody besides me ever go to somebody's platforms, like their Instagram, whatever, to make a decision about them? Yeah. Anybody dating here? No? Everybody's married and like happily, all that stuff? Nobody's on swiping? But like, do we all do this? What are people seeing when they look at it? Pictures of you and your kids like... You see how we're still doing it on the social graph. It should be on the interest graph. So let me ask you a question. Okay, so the majority of your business comes from where?
Door knocking, the farm, and fast fire.
Okay, and is it in a specific geographic area? Okay, and who is your avatar? So meaning like in that area, what is the average age?
More baby boomers.
Okay, so between like 55 and 65. Okay, and what are they specifically interested in?
They're interested in what's going to be going on in the neighborhood and what's happening.
Cool. What else are they interested in? Oh, this is good, bro. This is good. You mean I can't just go like this and be like, hey, yeah. What else are they interested in? You think they're interested in retirement? You think they're interested in perhaps downsizing?
Getting closer to the grandkids.
So wouldn't it make logical sense to be like, hey, here's what you can get in Florida for $500,000 or $600,000. Here's what California versus Arizona. Here's what you could actually get. You think that they would watch that? 100% they would. Do you see what I'm saying? And then over the course of time, they would determine that you were a good to help them with their problems. And you could send, so this is awesome, right? And it works. We have 2 examples. It works. I know a lot of people door knock out here. You know what the problem with that is? Tell me what the problem with that is. Yeah, I'm restricted to the area, but what else is the problem? Time. What else is the problem? Not everybody's home. What else is the problem? I gotta fucking do it. And it's hot. And if you're not there to do it, what happens? Doesn't get done. So if you could create an ecosystem where your avatar is watching all of this stuff, guess what would start to happen? They would call you. All right, so how can we apply this to the calls that we're making? Being the guide. What are things that people have to deploy to be the guide? He's looking at the notes. What? First is empathy. Yeah, I understand. Hey, being on the market and not selling, super frustrating. I get it. I'll be sure to take it off my list. I'm curious though, when you originally put it on, it's lovely, it's in a great area. Was there any reason you were even considering selling it? Here's another key phrase. My job is to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. So deploying empathy. The second thing I need to deploy is competency. How can I demonstrate competency without like sounding like a douchebag because like I'm the man? You know what I mean? How? And let me ask you a question. How have you felt? Anybody ever dealt with a professional where you felt like I'm in good hands?
Yeah.
What caused you to feel that way? Huh? Confidence. What is
listening to you, that they're hearing what you're saying.
okay? So that's a key component. You know, you hear people say like, "Oh, he or she was really thorough," right?
Yeah.
They really listened to me. Okay, so listening, understanding of the process, how it goes, laying out a roadmap 1, 2, and 3. So first what will happen is we'll get together and I'll take a look at the property. And then I'll give you a clear, realistic picture in terms of what would be a net bottom line in terms of the proceeds. And then we can discuss kind of logistics as far as if you need any help or assistance with moving to Arizona, because we can connect you with vendors that are licensed, bonded, and insured. And then you'll have all the information that you need so you can make the decision that you feel is best. Does that sound fair? Isn't that much more efficient than somebody saying like, do you want to move? Yes. Well, great. We should get together tomorrow and talk about it. Do you see what I'm saying? So I have to deploy empathy and demonstrate competency, right? So we're going to be roaming around and listening. Yeah, people are like, damn it, I don't want people to listen to me. So we'll be listening and we'll be giving feedback, okay? Now, the deal with feedback, I want you to really be clear. Somebody pointing something out to you that you may need improvement on is actually an act of love. They're trying to help you, right? So be really receptive to that feedback and be open to it and start to implement it right away, okay? And utilize this framework when having conversations to make, and keeping in mind that they are the hero in their own story. You're just the guide to help them to get what they want. Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations, emotional overload about what we discussed? I know everybody's like, oh man, that was a lot.
When you say social media, are you meaning like videos of yourself, or
Yeah.
are you talking about Instagram and all the?
Yeah, this is good. You know, this Instagram thing, what the hell's that? This thing these kids are playing with these days?
I know what it is.
Yeah. And this is, it just requires a reframe in your mind. So you view it, see, even the language that you used, you said garbage. Here's what's interesting. I've built a 7-figure business that people reach out to me regularly. I don't have to prospect. They call me. Okay, do we think Kim Kardashian is the sharpest knife in the drawer? That was fast. If she was here, she'd be like, well, no, you know, it's interesting. Do you think Kylie Jenner is the sharpest knife in the drawer? No. She parlayed attention into a cosmetic company and she's worth billions. Do you think the Logan brothers, Jake and Paul, are the sharpest knives in the drawer? No. No. They made $43 million last year. Well, you're like, that stuff's garbage.
Earlier you mentioned about having an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, how do I, first of all, what is that?
Yeah.
And number two, how do I go about applying an ecosystem
Good. So,
in my farm?
oh, great question. So what I was referring to is an ecosystem of attention. Okay. So in the attention game, there's short form, medium, and long form. What would be an example of short form?
Real.
Yeah. Some of you guys know. Reels, 60 seconds. So short form is just getting, hey. That's all it is. Okay. Then there's medium form. Medium form for you guys would be like, hey, here's what it's like to live in the hills. Here are the 5 best school districts in the hills. Here's the best restaurants in the hills. Here's what you could get in the hills versus a competing neighborhood, like 700,000 versus 700,000 in the competing neighborhood. Long form is something like a podcast, or this will be long form. So you notice we have the videographer here. He will take this hour, drop it on YouTube, and then what he'll do is cut it up and get shorts. That's an ecosystem. Because what they found is people go from short to medium to long. And by the way, this is a microcosm of the macro. Because if there were 1 million people here, 90% of them wouldn't be doing it either. So it's an immense competitive advantage. Huge, if you figure it out. And I believe the agents of the future, they will be rockstar salespeople, so they will know what to say and how to say it. They'll also understand attention, because it will help them to preserve professional fee. As you get more attention, you can charge more for the shit that you do.
And you're like a problem. Right?
Yeah.
It says, I don't know where to move or something like that. Rejection.
Yeah.
Where does your mind immediately go to? I know you know the answer, but can you walk us through the process of like how you're solving that problem?
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna stay like just curious. So it's like, I don't know where to move. It's like, okay, well, if you did know, where would you go? Because usually when people say I don't know something, it's bullshit. Like, I don't know. I'm like, well, if you did, what would it be? And then they're like, well, it's this. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you did know where, like, you know, if you did go somewhere, where would it be? And then I'm wondering, what would be important to you about the move? Like, how would your life change or improve in some way? What would be the benefit to you personally? And then how would that make you feel? Because we are feeling beings that think, we're not thinking beings that feel. We make decisions emotionally. You'll shop online for like 3 hours and then make an emotional decision. But what do we try to hit people with? Logic. Well, you know, the cost of living is 25% less. That doesn't do it. The feeling. So let's say you tell me like, yeah, it's really to get to the grandkids. Great. And let's say we got to the grandkids. How would that make you feel? Oh, it'd be fantastic. Blah, blah. Now I got them locked into the feeling. And then here's the next question. How important is that to you at this stage in your life? It's very important, Aaron. Interesting. Now, what would happen on the outside chance if you had to postpone feeling that feeling for another 2 or 3 years? Would that be okay with you? No, not at all. Okay, so it sounds like really it's so important to you that it makes sense to really explore how to make that happen. Now, let me ask you this, because my job's to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. Is it an option for you to not sell the home and still get to the grandkids?
So a lot of us and a lot of agents, we're used to a certain way of doing business, right?
Yeah.
Especially.
That's a very kind way of saying old way of doing business. Wasn't it?
So
I just envisioned everybody with like top hats and like fucking old dresses and stuff. Yeah, go ahead.
But yes. So how realistically do we start implementing this shift in our business?
Yeah.
Like from like, I guess, an easy scale to where it's like fully.
Yeah. So I think the first is awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. How many people had some like light bulbs go off as we had this conversation? Okay. So the first thing is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I think the second thing is a recognition that it's not optional. I think we tell ourselves a story. Like, I don't got to fucking do that. I'm good. You know what I hear when people say that to me? I don't want to make money. You know what else I hear? I'm unwilling to learn new things. That's what I hear. And business is an infinite game, guys. It was going on long before we started. It'll be going on long afterwards. But in infinite games, they're different than finite games. Finite games have a fixed number of players. So like people can't come out of the stands and play in the soccer game. We know who's playing. They have an agreed upon set of rules. There's no offsides, you know? And they have a time limit. At the end of the game, what do? We look up at the scoreboard. Whoever has more points wins. That's a finite game. Business is not a finite game, even though we speak like it is. Like crushing the competition and blah, blah. It's actually not a finite game. It's an infinite game. Infinite games have known and unknown players. They have no time restrictions and no agreed upon set of rules. I think it's always interesting as agents were like, well, I'm number one. I'm like, based on what? Gross? Net? The quality of the relationships that you have with your family? Like what? We don't even agree upon the rules. We put people on stages and we only see one portion of their life. Most people are a public success and a private mess. That's a fact. So business is infinite. If I'm going to play an infinite game and I'm not constantly learning and evolving, the game will eventually render me obsolete and no longer necessary. Because the game is impartial. It doesn't care who your family is. It doesn't care where you came. It doesn't care. So what we're living through is that's happening. How many of you guys remember a time where you had to, if I was going to come out here, I only had 2 places to stay. I could have stayed in a friend's house or a hotel. Are those the only choices I have now? No. Do you know that Airbnb owns no physical real estate? They have a bigger valuation than Hilton hotels. What? Do you remember? I remember. I had to explain to my son what Blockbuster was. It didn't always used to be Netflix and chill. So that's a long-winded answer to the question, but like that's the crux of it, is we're watching all of these things happen and we have a choice to make. Either I'm going to not learn new things, not pivot, and that'll render me eventually in this infinite game no longer needed, or I will pivot and change and learn new things. Now, 2 years ago, I want you guys to understand something. My media channels was my wife posting pictures of our kids. I didn't understand it. I was like, I would make fun of people who did that shit. I'm like, nah, bro, I prospect. You guys are bums, I prospect. Right? You're laughing because you do that shit. So, but what I realized, I had the same awareness that some of you are having. I just had it a few years ago. Like, oh my God, this is really important. but I didn't know what the way was. So what do you think I did? I'm the hero in my own story. What do you think I did? If I could have changed, I would have done it myself. I found a guide. I called that man over there, Jose Luis Morales. Clap it up for Jose. He's like my little brother from another mother. And I called him up and I was like, hey, bro, I know you're in this mastermind group. And it's like people that, you know, own a bunch of real estate. I'm like, who in your group knows media the best? He's like, dude, 3 of them have classes. Nobody makes more money than Ryan Pineda. Nobody. Great, that's my guy. Called him up. I paid him $25,000 to teach me media. Is that a lot of money? No. No fucking way, dude. Not at all. I didn't understand how to do it at all. But my content creators were on calls with his content creators for a year. We sucked everything out of their brain. Because if our bodies are the hardware, our brains are the software. You see, the problem is that a lot of us, myself included, we have old software. We have Windows 1.0. And we're thinking we still live in a Windows 1.0 world. We don't. So it's just, A, being aware of that, and then finding a good guide. A guide is just somebody who's a little bit further down the path. And they can point it out to you, and then making a commitment. I was 42 episodes of a podcast. I only had 200 subscribers. Most people would quit. Do you know that statistically, YouTube does studies? 70% of podcasts never get past the first episode. Because you know what you guys do? You're like, well, how do I know this is going to give me a deal? I've been doing it for a month and nothing happened. I'm going to stop. That's what we do. I did one post and my mom said, yay, nobody else liked it. If you're a shitty marketer, you have to become a world-class salesperson. For 15 years of my career, because of the instruction I was getting, didn't pay attention to marketing at all, so I turned myself into the Michael Jordan of selling real estate. I could list 100 homes a year. I did